Alright, my glorious Globetrotters, in today's video, we will be going over some very simple setups and or builds to help you dominate Destiny 2 Monuments of Triumph on a good old Warlock. As someone who plays and mains a Warlock, figured this would be a good video to go ahead and do, just going over some strong setups to help you kick some butt. Now, going to be a permanent mainstay. Didn't get hit too much by any of the changes with this huge gargantuan update, but the simplest and best build to rock for any neutral play, standard activity that you may be running is still just going to be a prismatic buddy build with getaway artists. For me personally, I like to rock one with Feed the Void. Obviously, it's like an essential aspect. Bleak Watcher turret with the fragments of protection. Obviously, you want faceted dominance so that your arc buddy jolts. Faceted hope to get your elemental class buff quicker for your rift, Phoenix dive, whatever it may have you, and a good old facet of purpose. Slap on any super of your choosing and you will be thriving and vibing. This is a very dominant, very strong setup in which your buddies are doing a lot of the heavy lifting, good in any type of content, and the most prominent and one that comes to everybody's mind when you think of a Warlock meta build in 2026 and a Monument of Triumph. And since this is the most common build for Warlock right now, we're not going to go too much more in depth other than just the core setup in the subclass. And as far as the raw mods on your getaway artist, I've just put on 2 firepower and a grenade farm. As long as you have at least 100 grenade on this setup and as high as weapons as you can, you will be the biggest of chillins. Okay, so for our next one, this is going to be a little bit more of a niche scenario pick, but if you are in a raid setting which you have a team around you, and more specifically a Banner Shield Void Titan, this might be the opportunity for you to whip out this gnarly little strand damage setup, because standing behind a Banner Shield is going to reload your weapons, which does allow us to use something like a Haliatus with cluster bomb and bipod, and essentially you can just dump all of your rocket launcher without ever having to reload it even once. Now, even better with Vogue armor with Argent Ordnance, because these rockets are going to get buffed. They'll stay buffed, especially if that Vogue armor, that 4-piece set, you're just going to be making orbs during the damage phase for you and your team, keeping up your surges fully and your Argent Ordnance fully. And then once you dump all of your rockets, you can just swap over to your Euphony in your kinetic slot and dump all of that as well. The rocket combined with Euphony will be a pretty darn good amount of damage for just about any boss you can think of in the game. And unlike the buddy system, I would say that the artifact is more important for this one. You want to use the Queen's Foil Sensor, as this one's going to have both Argent Ordnance and Horde Shuttle for you to use. Since you are on a full-on Strand Warlock setup, you will be able to proc Horde Shuttle the entire damage phase. You just flick a little arcane needle at them. You'll be spawning extra Threadlings while you're doing damage with your weapons. Not to mention, there's a lot of other good stuff in here in this artifact as well that complement this setup, but Horde Shuttle and Argent Ordnance specifically are what you're looking for out of this artifact. Of course, just like every sort of damage loadout, I always like to have a mechs portion for it and then the actual damage loadout for it. You don't really need surges during mechs. You don't need the Euphony all that much during mechs. Of course, that's up to you. For me personally, though, I just like to always have 2 loadouts for any given setup that I'm running, just to make minor optimizations for damage and for mechs. And then, of course, for the subclass, my man, you 1,000,000% want to rock that good old Weave Walk and Weaver's Call. Threat of Generation, Threat of Ascent, Threat of Warding, Threat of Evolution, have your Threadlings do more damage. And I just have Threat of Transmutation, whatever you want to use to finish it off to round it out, be my guest. And if there is not a Banner Shield, I feel like I should mention this, you can totally get away with running a Grapple Grenade. With Threat of Generation, you'll be doing a lot of instances of damage that will actually fill your grenade up relatively fast, as long as you at least have 100 grenade stat one way or another. And you can use your Grapple to reload your rocket that way. Although ideally, you want to use this with a Banner Shield Titan in your fire team. Okay, for our next one, I feel like a lot of people are going to enjoy this one. This is what we were using in our threat level video. That video was more focused on the actual threat level shotgun roll itself versus the build that we were using. But since I had a lot of people asking me for the setup and the build in that video, we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about it here. I'm going to switch over to a live portion of me kind of explaining it a little bit more further in depth rather than me doing it here. But just know the most important thing that you need for the threat level shotgun damage setup is a threat level shotgun. All right, who would have thought? And the roll that you need is 1,000,000% Cascade Point and All-Star. I know this weapon has very very good damage perks in the fourth column. People are gonna be like, what about Trench Barrel? What about Elemental Honing? What about Aggregate Shard? I hear you, but All-Star is the best in slot for this thing to truly juice its DPS, and let me explain why. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about this specific setup. Obviously, you guys are already familiar with the greatness that is the new age threat level. Like I said, Cascade Point, All-Star, and then you kind of want to get your handling as high as possible. Make sure you don't have on full choke. It takes away your precision damage. I just have on Barrel Shroud for that extra handling speed, but we know about the shotgun, okay? Funny enough, my setup for this, you'll notice, is the exact same as my buddy build, because like I said earlier in the video, I like to have a Mex loadout and then a damage loadout. This is my Mex loadout, you know, like I said, really great in any neutral activity, neutral play that you may be in scenario, getaway artist, buddy build, and then swap over to the damage loadout. So like real talk, bro, if you have on the buddy build that I put on earlier in this video, this is the exact same, all right? The exact same for the fragments and aspects. Something that's very important though, and a must-have, is this. You need kinetic synthesis from the artifact. Kinetic synthesis allows for the shotgun to make its own ammo that you pick up while you're face tanking the boss and just ripping damage with your shotgun. And then because All-Star reloads your weapon whenever you pick up ammo, this is how you never have to reload it, okay? Kinetic synthesis is very, very important. Infinite ammo, infinite shooting, no reloading. We will happily take that. And then Kinetic Rupture, pretty useful on this as well. But anything else from the artifact, don't really need. Kinetic Synthesis, most important by far. Kinetic Rupture is pretty nice. And then, yeah, that's the artifact. And then in terms of our actual, like, mods, so this is the damage loadout. I have Super Font. I have Dex Bonds. Dex Bonds are very important because you're doing a lot of swapping here. I have Matiodoxia, just whenever I yeet the super, so it does more damage, right? You know, gotta have some extra deeps. Then we do have on 2 Kinetic Surges, and then a Solar Surge for our Finalities Augur, because, I mean, before damage starts, you just rip a turret in the air, just shoot it, let it do its thing while you're ripping damage with a shotgun. Just chill, have some good times. If you are, let's say you're on Tractor Cannon though, for whatever reason, maybe, you know what I'm saying? Hey, nothing wrong with the Tractor Cannon, it's higher debuff now. Then you would just obviously put on triple surges here instead of the 2 kinetics and 1 solar. You'd go triple kinetics. Simple stuff here. Time dilation, powerful attraction, and then I just have on a class font. A class font, like this is kind of like my holy trinity of mods on my class item, whatever it may be. These mods are always super good to have on, okay? And then the last thing to really talk about the importance of is what's in your energy slot. This is what is called the battery for this setup. You want to get a heavy burst shotgun with as big of mag as possible. I have the Arcane Embrace, which you get from just decrypting Eerie Ingrams over in the tower with your legendary marks right here, just literally right here, you know, where you attune everything with your legendary marks. And it's only 2 Eerie Ingrams, or 2 Eerie Ingrams. It's only 2 legendary marks to decrypt an Eerie Ingram. You have very high odds of getting a good Arcane Embrace from that, and you don't need anything in this 4th column. It doesn't matter. You just realistically want reconstruction. This gives it a big time magazine. You put on a backup mag, you put on whatever mag perk that gives it an even higher mag, just so that you can get the biggest magazine in your shotgun as possible. I got a little bit lucky and got a handling masterwork here as well. 94 handling, we'll take that. That's juice. But you'll see, yeah, dude, it is 32 in the mag. 32 in the mag is plenty enough for you to use it as a battery, never have to reload this weapon either. You're not gonna have to reload your threat level because of All-Star and Kinetic Synthesis, and that is the main juice to just rip damage. Obviously, you want to have a Divinity Bubble going on the target just because it makes proccing Cascade Point way easier. You don't have to actually aim, you just swap, bing, and then swap back and just rip and just dump damage. One last thing to mention, yeah, dude, 4-piece Vogue set wherever you can. This armor set is just so freaking awesome and very powerful. All right, so for this next category of setups and builds, I'm going to be going over any, and I mean any, Well of Radiance setup that I run. Any build that has a Well of Radiance on it as its super, I will be showing in this portion. Boots of the Assembler, as you already know, that's going to be the first one. But I got some other spicy ones, so let's get to it. So first things first, here is our setup. This is the, oops, it's slightly, oops, I added on for the different heavy weapon. Don't mind me. For option A, right, we have a 1000 voices with the catalyst. Something I need to mention about this, I should play a clip at the end of this little demonstration, is that with the catalyst, 1k's damage actually gets boosted via a teammate in your fire team hitting the boss with a Witherhoard. Okay, if you remember using Malfeasance back in the day, it's similar to that. So if you are going to use this, ask kindly someone in your fire team can put on a Witherhoard. Really good exotic. What are the staples of this? You want 100 super bare minimum and as high as weapons as you possibly can. If you are going to be rocking the 1000 voices, I would rock this artifact, okay? This artifact, we have Part of Destruction, we have Horde Shuttle, and then we also have Unraveling Orbs, okay? Guess what? Guess what we also have in here? We have our 4-piece Vogue armor set. Hey, I made a video telling people to go farm this armor set like a week ago for a reason. It's universally good everywhere. For the fragments, this is the damage like loadout, so we obviously have on an Empowering Rift just in case the damage phase is going longer than our Well of Radiance lasts for. But then Celestial Fire, Healing Grenade. I would say Singeing is like a must. That with Benevolence, Torches, Ember of Ashes. You can never go wrong with these 4 fragments. Obviously, your Well of Radiance for the team. And then let's talk about the damage. Obviously, 1k is going to be what's doing your damage for you. I will do a brief demonstration of me just kind of dumping real quick. Let me refresh these. And then, yes, we have on a scatter signal to use once our 1k is out of ammo. And then we shall go ahead and do this just to get a little unraveling on the boss. Never hurts nobody. And then we just fire the 1k at him. Now, like I said, this is a weapon that is partially taken with the catalyst. So if someone in your fire team has on a Witherhoard, that'll be very beneficial for you. It'll have your 1k doing more damage. Now, another thing that is worth mentioning is that since this is a weapon that does a lot of ignitions, as you can see, some really respectable damage. And then afterwards, you would just pop your imprif and you would still just shoot them with your good old scatter signal. But guys, since this is a weapon that relies a lot of ignitions, you can only have one person in the fire team using it. Otherwise, you guys are going to be fighting each other for ignition procs and just going to be hurting each other's damage. Only one person in the fire team should be using the 1k. Now, this is just with Boots of the Assembler on. 1k is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. There is another, I think, here, let me put this on real quick. We're just going to go over like a lot of the Well of Radiance setups that I have. Where is it? Is it this one? It is this one. This one right here is with Dawn Chorus. Dawn Chorus is actually pretty darn strong with 1000 voices due to the fact that Dawn Chorus is going to have your Scorch deal additional damage. It's going to build more powerful ignitions, dealing damage with Scorch, or ignitions grants melee energy for your Celestial Fire. We're not done with this just yet either, because we'll see. You'll see. We have a lot to go over in this video, man. All right, so let's refresh it. Now, this is without the boots. I just wanted y'all to just see just how good this can be. Bink. Bink. And we just let it rock. We let it ride. If you hear a toilet in the background, it's all good. We all use the bathroom. At least I hope we all do. Otherwise, you're constipated. And let me tell you, my friend, being constipated is not good. I'm just going to proc this. This does not have on demo. Oops, it's okay. Let me dump all of this. And then with that, we'll throw that out too. With that, that's about 100k, right? By itself with the Dawn Chorus. Obviously, if you're in a team scenario, just keep running the boots, but I just at least wanted to show that Dawn Chorus in this scenario. Granted, a little bit of those didn't have on all of our surges, but it's cool. It's just a little quick fire ring range slop portion of the video demonstration live. It's all Gucci. Guess what you can also do with this thing? That's right. We can run Sanguine Alchemy. And Sanguine Alchemy just opens up the door for you to have a lot more fluidity with your setup in terms of just raw damage. Because what we can do is we can still put on this. We can still put on this. We don't need to have on solar surges. So now what we do is we go on to 2 strand surges. Okay. This would be in a scenario in which you are able to have another Warlock drop the well with boots, because no matter what, dude, the boots of the assembler giving 35% damage to all of your fire team is going to do more net damage overall than just you being on Sanguine. So don't be greedy, don't be selfish. If you're the only well lock in the fire team, put on the boots. But if you are not, and you have the option, the flexibility, my good sir, well then I have something for you. This is the good old Sanguine setup. You know, I'm going over all of the Well of Radiance setups possible because it's very well versed. We all know how goated Well of Radiance is. It's used everywhere. It's been a staple since it came out. Holy crap, this super is darn near going into 3rd grade. Also, I know people are going to ask me, what is that scout rifle, guys? This is an old Season of the Haunted Staccato that has shoot to loot explosive payload. I use it in just about any damage loadout that has an energy primary slot in my mech's loadout for it. That way I can shoot to loot, pick up ammo during damage if I need to. Hold on, give me just a quick second. Okay, sorry about that. You know, didn't have on particle reconstruction, which is kind of important for this type of build and setup. Anyways, now we're gonna let it fly. We're gonna dump both our 1K and our scatter signal, and you'll see that it'll do some relatively respectable damage. But mainly we're here to just boost the raw damage with our 1K through our Sanguine Alchemy. Reload it. What are you doing over here, Carl? It's okay. Now we will dump this bad boy as well. Once again, if you have a teammate in your fire team that has on Witherhoard, make sure they dump it for you. It'll boost the damage of your 1K overall. I'll have some clips of that at the end of the video to just show you guys what I'm talking about. And then we'll dump all of this. And boom. Okay. Relatively respectable. That's still not beating the threat level though, but there you go. That is if you're going to use the Well of Radiance with 1K, those are all the setups that I would use. But like I said, you can only use 1K if you're the only one in your fire team using 1K. What if somebody already called dibs? It's okay. What if you don't have 1K? It's okay. It's chill because you run this. You just put on Truth. Argent Ordnance, full Vog armor set, Void Surges. You just put on Truth. All right, for the sake of the video, I will go ahead and rip some damage. 138 is actually kind of respectable though, considering it's just a dumping load. Like you just dump, right? You're not even having to do any proper setup. You don't need a div. You don't need a barrel stuff. You don't need this, that, and the other. You kind of just rip it. The one thing about Truth though is that it did catch a slight nerf, but that's okay. Let's rip some damage. Now, granted, this is not gonna have its own like debuff like the other one did, but because it's Truth, it's still gonna do some pretty darn good damage. Also, yeah, the reserves nerf does kind of hurt a little bit, but it's still gonna do some overall pretty dang good damage even by itself. Yeah, Truth could just output damage really fast. Obviously way less total, but very good burst. And this is if you are having to run the boots. You can't get away with Sanguine. You can't use Dawn Chorus. You kind of just got to do what you got to do. You're giving 35% damage buff to everybody. Regardless, that is all of my Well of Radiance builds and setups that I cycle and use. The last one that I want to mention, this is only someone if you like to really like min-max, is this one. This is solely a transition loadout. This I just made it. I have on a Starfire for jumping puzzles, but realistically, if you don't want to run the Starfire or you just want to be a little bit even more of a Giga Chad, you just put on the T-steps, triple enhanced athletics. You'll be moving through that transition puzzle very fast. Make sure you have on your Eager Sword, whatever it may be. If you do have a well, put on the Slammer. If you don't have a well, put on Soul and Claw or whatever lightweight frame sword. These have faster and longer range eager swipes. It will do you justice. Always have the shoot to loot weapon on pick up ammo after the end of an encounter to pick up sword ammo so you can actually get to the next encounter as fast as you can. This is just a transition loadout. It's not all that important, but I would figure I'd just throw this in here and mention it because I use these all the time when I'm raiding, whatever it may be. I like to zoom. I like to go through the transitions as fast as possible. So this is the loadout I use. Figured I would showcase that. All right, and that's just what's... Whoa. Holy crap. Dude. What? The Witherhoard makes this thing count as taken. It takes so fast. Okay, and last but not least, we have a Song of Flame setup that you can run if you have to be Mr. Tractor Cannon guy. Because we can put out some deeps with the Tractor Cannon on Song of Flame. In case you didn't know about how awesome it can be, I'm about to show you, my friend. Okay, we've saved arguably the best for last, alright? So, this one's a little bit different, just because the stat spread is different than what you're normally going to use for damage, okay? This setup really relies on Song of Flame. If you do not know, whenever you are in Song of Flame, I believe it is your melee, grenade, and your class stat that goes, they get basically plus 100. And to show just exactly what I'm talking about, as you can see here, my class stat is at 37, right? Whenever you have your class stat over 100, you get a bit of an overshield based on how big your class stat is. So normally, obviously because mine's only 37, when I cast it, I'm not going to get an overshield. But when I activate Song of Flame, wait for it to come back, and then I cast it, you'll see that I get an overshield, okay? That's just me trying to show that, like, yes, your melee, your grenade, and your class all get plus 100 to that stat whenever you are in Song of Flame. This is very important because this allows you to allocate your stats more effectively. You only need the 100 melee for your raw damage setup, thus allowing you to focus more on just your raw super stat. If being in Song of Flame does increase your super stat by 100, please let me know, because I do not know that for a bona fide fact. I do know for a fact, though, that the class, grenade, and melee do get the 100 stat boost when in the super. So what that means is that our melee will be at 200 whenever we activate our super, which is very important because all of the damage that is going to be coming from this setup is through the Celestial Fire melee. Because when you are in Song of Flame, the Celestial Fire gets the bonus from the melee stat, obviously, but also the super stat. So you're using two stats to scale the Celestial Fire when you're in Song of Flame. Do not use the Incinerator stat. It does not get both of the stat bonuses, okay? And also, obviously, you want to still have on your Ember of Ashes. As you see here, our fragments have not changed. One thing to note is that Helion is actually very useful on this setup, as this will give you some extra tick damage, solar damage, scorch, help build up even more ignitions and just ripping it. A little bit of dot damage doesn't hurt nobody, but most of your damage is going to be coming from your Celestial Fire. Weapons. This is, once again, if you have to be running Tractor Cannon, okay? Also, the reason why we're on solar is to get use of that Ember of Ashes, my good sir. You could run this on Prisma if you wanted to as well. I'm just doing it on raw solar with Dawn Chorus as my example here. Tractor Cannon. Here is what I have for the artifact, just to show like what you actually would need. You really just want solar fulmination, ignitions to increase damage in an increased radius, and then I also have shield crush. But like realistically, bro, you just need this. Okay, solar fulmination is what we're on this artifact for. Now keep in mind, our damage is coming from our super and our melee, not our weapon. So for this specific setup, running the actual high weapon stat isn't needed, as it generally is. All right, and then you kind of just rip it like this. You don't even worry about using the grenade whatsoever. You just want to spam melees as much as possible, as fast as you can. Ideally, you want to have the Tractor Cannon buff not fall off. I was locked in there. And just as an example, you know, 84k with the super, relatively decent. Okay, I'm gonna do one more run just because I know we can do even more damage. All right, one more time for the boys back home. Let's do this thing. Rip, rip, rip. Just keep firing. Don't let that Tractor Cannon debuff fall off. You think you only need to do it once at the start and once during the middle of your actual super, and you'll actually have it up fully. And this should be what? Yeah, almost 100k with Tractor Cannon, okay? This is honestly pretty darn impressive and respectable considering the fact that you're running a 30% debuff for your entire team and you're still able to output this much damage. We'll happily take that. Now, something important is the actual shotgun that you pick here, okay? The Perfect Paradox, the reason why we have this one with a good old 1-2 punch here is because of its origin trait. Cast No Shadows, dealing melee damage, increases the handling, but it also loads a small amount of ammo from reserves. This allows us to never have to worry about valuing our shots, never having to reload it when you're using it for damage. That's the reason why we have this weapon here and not the threat level, is simply because of this weapon's origin trait. Allows you to fully keep ammo in its magazine. We're not on the artifact that has kinetic magnetic synthesis because we want solar fulmination, so we need to have some sort of way to get around the reloading of the shotgun as well. I mean, you could just run 2 shotguns if you really needed to, but for simplicity and easy of use, easy of life, quality, I just have a perfect paradox, cast no shadows. Order trait really does help it out a lot. Once again, this is with Dawn Chorus. We have 200 melee while we're in the super, even a little bit of extra class and grenade as well. 1,000,000% run those Ember of Ashes, and you need to have Celestial Fire equipped. But that is basically it for the Song of Flame. Little damage rotation you can do if you are on Tractor Cannon for whatever reason you may be. There you go. Thought I'd showcase this one off as well. Thought it's pretty respectable. There you have it, everybody. That is every Warlock build that I use to dominate PvE inside of Destiny 2. I hope you found at least one setup to be unique or tickle your fancy, maybe even use it. I'll be leaving dim links to all of these in the description if you want to just copy it, paste it, you know, fair enough. One thing to know about that, it does not copy the artifact in the dim link. Very important to know that. Regardless, hope you all enjoyed the video. Do consider subscribing and checking out our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/kree, KWREE. We do be streaming quite a bit these days. Destiny 2 and Slay the Spire 2. That is our bread and butter. Y'all have a great day. Be safe. Consider subscribing. Once again, I'll see your beautiful faces in that next one. Adios.